Welcome everybody to the 10 things that you didn't know that the ABC Transcription Tools could do. Number 3 will blow your mind and that sort of thing. Anyway, what I wanted to do was I do a lot of seminars on the tools that are sort of walkthroughs, and they're actually available in the user guide and all that, and on YouTube. But I wanted to kind of sort of skirt around the edges of some of the more esoteric things that are possible with the tool. Again, this is not meant to be a tutorial for how to use the tools. It's not meant to be a tutorial in ABC. What I'm showing you here is some of the lunatic fringe stuff. Some of it's not so lunatic fringe. Some of it is just like things that people probably would want to use, but they're not even aware they're there. And you know, I have a very comprehensive user guide, but it's very difficult sometimes to get people to even acknowledge that there is a user guide and use it. So I just gonna what we're gonna do is, rather than me picking the topics, is I came up with a bunch of random topics here that I figured these are things that people might be interested in, and we're gonna let the Wheel of Fortune pick what actually gets selected. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick the first topic. Here we're gonna spin the wheel. And let's see what the first topic is. It's going to be the Incipits builder, looks like. Okay, great. Awesome. So, Incipits builder. So for those of you who are, okay, so what Incipits are like a cheat sheet for doing the first line of every tune. And a lot of times you'll see people show up like at a session and they'll have these little cheat sheets printed out that just have the first line of the tunes. And the tool is able to do this for the PDF exporter very simply by just picking, a matter of fact, I'm going to just do something here. Is able to do it just by selecting Node Incipits. And again, I'm not doing a tutorial here, I'm just kind of showing you capabilities. When you do the PDF export, instead of saying do the full tunes, you can just say do Incipits. And what you get sort of automagically by the tool is something that will look like what's about to come up here. And I'll show you a couple of options. And you can see you get something that looks like this, where you have the first line of each tune. And that can be used as a sort of a cheat sheet. If you want a really compact version of that, you can tell it to do 2 columns instead of 1 column. And what you'll get is something that looks a little bit more dense. And this will put about, I don't know, 40 tunes or something on a page. And so let it finish here. So if we look at this now, you can see we get much smaller, much more tunes on the page. And the way the Incipits work, all that, they work just like normal tunes. So if you click on them, you can bring them up in the player and play. But the thing that some people wanted was when you have these Incipits. So if we look at these Incipits here, I'll look at the first one just so you can see. They are literally the first line of the tune. They're going to be the first line of the A part of the tune. It's literally done by just not displaying the rest of the lines and then sending it out to the PDF. But if you want to do something more complicated, like the most common thing people say is, well, I want the Incipits. I want to have a single line for each tune, but I want to know the A part, the B part, and the C part. I want like a few measures from each of those parts. And that's where the Incipits builder comes into play. So the Incipits builder is under More Tools, and it says Notes Incipits builder here. And this allows you to set up, like create multi-part incipits with part A, B, and C. You can have them either be on their own staffs or all on one staff. I'm going to leave it as on one staff. How many bars you want of each part. And then do you want to left justify the titles? Do you want numbers for the titles? Strip out any text, that sort of thing. And full details on this are available if you just click the question mark, and this is true for every dialog in the tool. You click the question mark, it'll take you right to that section of the user guide where there's usually a demo video showing you how to use the feature. So anyway, we'll go back to the Incipits builder here. We're going to create multi-part incipits. We're going to do 3 bars per part, and we just click build. And what you'll see now is, if you look at the notation, is now we have a single line, but now we have the start of the A part, start of the B part. There'll probably be some 3-part tunes here. Here we go, like Banished Misfortune, 3 parts. And now if you do export PDF and you do it as Node Incipits, 2 columns, let's say, what you get is you'll get all of the parts of the tunes in the cheat sheet. So this just takes a second. And we don't have to have a title page or table of contents if we don't want it on the tunes. It's totally optional. So you can see now here we have a cheat sheet that has the A parts and the B parts and so on. So that's just a way of creating a cheat sheet that has multiple parts. And that's what the Incipits builder is for. Any questions on that one before we go to the next topic? Again, we're just doing these at random. And I'm happy to answer questions, but I don't want to spend too much time on any one particular feature. Anybody on that one? Okay, so that's the Incipits builder. So that gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of creating cheat sheets. We'll go to the next feature. Random, here we go. Oh, syntax highlighting. Okay, so this is a recent thing that I added to the tool, and if you've updated the tool recently, you've probably noticed that it looks a little different. It used to look like this. I'm going to go ahead and just turn it off. So if we look at the left side here, look at the editor, you'll see that it's just black text. There's no line numbers. There's no color highlighting of the different features. It's just a big pile of text. And it's been like, this is how it was for, the past 3 years or so. But then in the past several months, I went ahead and integrated some components that allowed me to do this. And if you go into settings, and this is now turned on by default, you can see on the very top it says enable ABC syntax highlighting. You say okay, has to restart to load it. And now you'll see we get on the left side, everything in the header is, this is before the tunes. And then once we get into the tunes, you can see we have line numbers for the tunes and that all of the components of the ABC are in different colors. So the tags are blue, the font directives are red, the chords are this kind of magenta, the notes and rests are black, and that kind of thing. And then any of my custom, because I have a whole bunch of custom things like swing, are in this brighter red color. So it allows you to more cleanly see the notation. Plus, another thing is if you are using the syntax validation features, which are under advanced settings, show ABC syntax validation panel. You'll see a little yellow area shows up here. And if I type something weird, like in the middle of this thing, I type, I don't know, a $, you can see that it tells you here, it says on this tune, the Aaron Both song, at line 8, column 14, there's an unknown character. And so having the line numbers and the tune names associated because of the syntax highlighting now makes it a lot easier to use the syntax validator. A lot of people don't even know there's a syntax validator. And so that way now when I fix that bad character, it says no issues found. So that's one other use of the syntax validation features. It gives you the line numbers, and that allows you to more easily find issues if you happen to, sometimes you get a tune and someone is just perplexed, something's wrong and they can't fix it. A lot of times turning on that syntax validator in the advanced settings, this right here, so ABC syntax validation panel, can be very, very handy, and the line numbers will help you with that. In addition, in the syntax highlighting, there's two options. This is the light, what would be called light mode. There's also, if you go into settings, there is a dark mode. Use dark mode for the editor when syntax highlighting is enabled, and it looks like this by default. And some people like to use dark mode editing. I'm not a big fan of dark mode myself, but enough people are. That's an option that's there. I'm going to turn that off just for a second here. And beyond that, if you don't like the choice of colors I've made, for example, this red color that's being used for all of my private, these are all private annotations because they start with single % signs. For example, if you didn't want those to be red, but you wanted those to be green always when you use the tool, If you go into the advanced settings, there's an ABC syntax highlighting theme editor, and you can pick the colors that you want. So here's tool private directives. Right now they're red. This is what it would look like in the ABC. This is what it looks like in dark mode. And instead I could say change that to a green color, let's say a bright green color. And close that window. And then I can say apply and save theme. And now you see these all turn back to, these are now green. And the next time, even if I reload the tool, I'll just like reload the page and I'll reload the text. You'll see that the syntax highlighting colors are sticky. It stays in, the settings stay with the tool. You don't have to change it. Once you change it once, it stays that way forever. I'm going to go ahead and go, if you ever want to go back to the defaults, advanced settings, syntax highlighting, theme editor, restore defaults. You'll see this went back to red, apply and save theme, and we're back to the original theme. So you can play around with the colors and all that if you want. I tried to pick some default colors that I thought looked good both in the light mode and the dark mode and had enough differences between the different elements that it was useful. But again, you have total control over the appearance of all of those elements if you want. So let's see, that's I think all I can think of with the syntax highlighting. Next feature, we're going to get more than 10. This is why I made so many. What do we get this time? Looks like it's going to be export website. Okay. So the most common use for the tool historically has been to create PDF tune books. You put a bunch of tunes in. I'm going to just go ahead and clear this. I'm going to add, I'm going to add the three sample tunes here, and I'm going to export this PDF, and I'm not going to do anything as table of contents or anything like that. I'm just going to do a raw PDF export without any title page or anything. And very typically this is how people use it. They'll want to create a PDF and print it out or email it to their friends or whatever. But one of the things that the tool can do is it can create complete websites for you. And these websites are essentially completely standalone. It does all of the coding, it does all of builds everything that you need, the CSS, the JavaScript, and everything for you. And then you can either run it locally, which I'll show you, or you could, if you actually have like web hosting, you can put the website up on a hosting service, and then you can share the URL to that website with other people. But it's really simple to use. You click export website. And then there's 4 different options that it explains here. Again, if you click on the question mark, it'll take you to that section of the user guide. 4 different styles. I'm going to show you, I think what I'll do is I will show you the simplest style, and then I'll show you the most robust style. The simplest style, export basic tuneless website. You click that, you put in some information here. I'm going to say demo website. And these are going to be just example tunes. And again, this is also, if you click here, it'll give you all the information about what all of these values mean. But you put in a title, subtitle, a footer, a background color, or a path to an image, a text color. These are all things it's going to use when it builds the website. Do you want the tunes to actually play when people click them, or you just want to show the notation? And if you do open in the player, what instruments you want used for playback. I'm going to go ahead and say export. I'm going to give it, we're going to say this demo 1. And I'm going to open the website. And what this is going to be is very simple. It's going to be just a list of tunes. So here's the title, the subtitle, and our 3 tunes. I click on any of these names, and it opens that tune in a player in a new tab, and then you can play it or run the tune trainer or whatever. And so that's for someone who just wants a very simple list of tunes kind of website. They don't want to have the notation there. They want it to be very terse. Bill Black, who's a big collector of tunes, he's done this with like all of his tune books. He's created these just tune list websites. And because it's just an HTML file, if you are comfortable.
I think Jeff has a question. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. Sure. Sorry.
If you create a website like that and somebody who does not have your tool loaded,
Yeah.
and they click on it, will it still play?
Yeah, because what happens is that the website is this. What the website does is when you click the link, it's literally just a hyperlink that then opens up the tool. So it will launch the tool in another tab.
Hmm.
So there is no having the tool because the tool is just a website, right?
Hmm.
And once they run the website once on their device, because of the way it's written, it will stay resident. So even if they're not online, the tool will still load and run and play. So yeah, there's no record because there's no installation. You notice we didn't install anything. We just went to this URL, and that's the tool. The tool is a website. It's a web-based tool. So yeah, the answer is yeah. It'll absolutely do that. I just wanted to show you, this is the source code for that website we just created. It's just one big file, and that's the whole website. That the tool generated this for you. If you're familiar with doing like HTML, JavaScript, CSS, you can customize this to your heart's content. I'll show you the more complicated version of this. We'll say like export full featured TuneBook website. Demo website 2, we'll call it. We'll call this full featured actually. And this one has the ability to add instrument selector. So this right here, it says add tablature instrument selector dropdown. We'll export this one, open it, and you'll see now what we get at the top is the list of tunes, and they get hosted right here inside the web page rather than launched in another page. And we can play it, or we can change it to, let's say we want mandolin tablature. Hold on a second here. I have a setting that must be funny here. 1 second here. Why did it do that? Should have played with a tenor banjo. Oh, I know why. Sorry, I need to do something. It's because the tunes themselves, these sample tunes have the programs built in. That's why. Let me take those programs out. Yeah, because I had, for the demos, I have you see right here is MIDI program 0. Those are going to override other stuff, so I need to take those out for this particular example. Yeah, got me a little scared there. I was like, what's going on? It's not working right. And that's because the tunes themselves have overrides. Okay, let me just make sure. Let's do this again. Export website. The beauty of this is if you find something weird, you can just like change it in the ABC, just do another export. Okay, let's try this again. Coolies comes by default, it'll be just the piano. But then you can pick an instrument here, mandolin, get mandolin tab, should be mandolin sound. And each of these has got its corresponding sound. So we've got bouzouki, we've got like concertina. And once you're here at the player, it's just the player like in the tool. You can run the tune trainer, slow things down, speed things up, whatever you want to do. You can run the tune trainer here. So again, what I did was I hit start tune trainer, and it opens up this tune trainer where you have a starting tempo, ending tempo, speed. There's information about the tune trainer in the user guide, but again, this is the thing that lets you to like pick up your instrument. It'll start playing it slowly. It'll play it through at a certain slow speed, and then it would go through and speed up and that sort of thing. The key being here that all of that is available directly from these websites that are created using the website builder. You have access to the full features, including exporting like the tunes as MP3, and if you want the pictures, you just want the JPEG for the tune, you can do that just from the websites as well. It gives you essentially full access to the full features. And there's 2 other versions of them that are, I'll just do one here. We'll do the Lightbox websites. This one is like a bunch of pictures of if you wanted to have like all of the tunes in kind of this kind of a presentation rather than embedded in an iframe, you can do that, and these still play. If you click them, they'll open in a player. So there's just a few variations. All of this is detailed pretty well in the user guide. So that's the export website feature. And again, you don't have to know anything about web coding. If you don't, if the ability to set the colors and names and all that is sufficient for your needs, you don't have to know anything about doing anything with the website coding, and you don't have to host those. Like, I didn't put those websites anywhere. I just ran them. Literally, they're sitting on my desktop, sitting, on the hard drive, and I can double click the HTML file, and the website just runs. But it still goes out to the internet to load the tool to play the tunes.
So you can send that link to the site to other people and it'll just bring it up.
Assuming, let's say you put it on, alex.com.
So it has to go somewhere up on the internet first before you can share it.
Well, there's two possibilities. One is you can just mail them the HTML file.
Right. Okay.
The difference is that the ones that require the ones that have the pictures, you have to mail them would have to mail them the HTML file and all the pictures, because the pictures are not built into the HTML itself. The pictures are external to the HTML. But for the full featured website and the simple website, those are completely self-contained. They don't have any pictures at all. They just they load the tool from the share links directly. So you could literally I could email you the, I could, for example, I could put that website that I just created in the chat, and you could download it and run it locally, and it would just work. So that was part of the beauty of the website. The other thing about the websites is that they're really tiny. The PDF files tend to be a bit large, about 300K per page. The website for if I create, I'll show you here, if I create a website for, let me go ahead and open up the Cultist chapter tune book here. So this is 118 tunes. When I create the PDF of this, it's 15 megabytes or something like that. If I export this as a full-featured website, I'll just call this San Diego. And I'll just, everything else the same. We'll just call this SDCCE website. And you can see here, that whole website, I don't know if you saw briefly there, it's 107 kilobytes. And it's all these tunes. So it's
that's the best way to send it to somebody else so that they have access to the tunes. I mean, take away all the pictures, all the other gump and everything else. It's just the tunes, right?
It's just the tunes. And again, if we actually look at the source code for this, you can see it's this is okay. So it's here's the CSS, here's the actual HTML. There's not a whole lot of it. Here's all the tunes which are encoded, built in right into the website. They take up the bulk of it. And then there's a little bit of code at the bottom that handles all of the changes in the controls. But again, you don't have to know anything about web building in order to use it. And I could literally take that website now, and I could go into chat, and I could take that file, and I will send you that file. And if you download that file and double click it, you will get exactly what you're seeing here. So it's a really, really nice way, really concise way of distributing a lot of tunes.
That makes so much sense for what I'm looking at.
Well,
really.
it's nice. What's nice
PDF
about it
with the
is
pictures would be nice, but this is probably better for a working document.
It particularly if you are our local Cultist chapter generates the PDFs, and they put let me think of how they do it on the website. I think they just put a link to the tunes. But they don't use the website version, although I built one for them. But the reason I like the websites over the PDF files, A, is that they're really tiny, but B, because they have the instrument selection here, is that if you're doing this for a session, you've got your session tune book, it's great because it's actually got the different instruments, so the accordion players are able to practice with an accordion if they want, and the hammer dulcimer players can practice with hammer dulcimer. And then those.
A question. I love that. I love to be able to go through all the instruments like that. My question would be then, so you've built this, you've sent it out, but then you want to add more tunes to it. You want to change it up a little bit. So do you send out a link?
Yeah, you have to regenerate it. You have to regenerate it. Yeah, I mean, typically, we can have another discussion another time about ways of. I mean, it's the easiest way is just to regenerate it. Sometimes, if I've made a lot of changes to for example, let's say I build this site and you see it's got this green thing going on here. But let's say I did another website and I changed a bunch of I went in here and I went to do export website, and then I changed a bunch of these colors and I couldn't remember what I used. for the original, like the website that I want to edit later. So what I'll do sometimes is I will just, okay, again, again, we're getting a little into the weeds here, but I just want to kind of show you, for those
Sorry,
of
I
you,
always
no,
do
that's
that.
okay. I just wanted to show you, like, because if you look at the way the website's structured, let me zoom this up a little bit. When you export a website, what really changes if you were to add more tunes is just this structure that holds the tunes. And so sometimes if I'm updating a website, I'll just like use the website creator, and I'll just do all the tunes, and then I'll go into the source for the new website, and I'll pull out this structure that has all the new tunes and just paste it in the old one. And that way I don't have to mess, the colors stay the same, and I don't have to, so I'm kind of like hacking the website itself rather
Yep.
than
No, I got it. I
generating
got
it.
it. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those kinds of things are possible. I do that a lot. Because if I've changed this to, these to blue, or background to some image or something, and I don't remember exactly, I could go into the source for this and see what I typed. Maybe having some settings in the future might be handy. Again, I just go in and just manually copy and paste in the new tune structure. But yeah, the easiest way is just regenerate it,
Yeah.
because you can see like it takes literally like a second, So like someone said, "Oh, I got this new tune here. I want to add. I'm going to add the cache to this, and I want a new website." The easiest way is just re-export it. Done. Now we have a new one, and if we open that, cache will be at the end of the list. Right. So
Done.
that's the easiest way, and then now if you're hosting it on your hosting service, from their point of view, the link stays the same. You just replace the HTML file, right?
Oh,
I
of
mean, if
course.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
what.
if it's
Yeah.
like
Okay. That
yeah,
that makes sense. Oh man, I
yeah,
knew
yeah. And
that.
so
Okay.
this is exactly what the cultist chapter does. They have one URL, and then they just update it. They
So
update
when
the
they come,
website.
when a person comes back to it, even though I've updated the HTML, they're coming back to the same place, but they're seeing my new
Exactly.
file. Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. Any other questions on the website builder?
Oh, I'm so
I'm just
glad we
trying.
got that one. Yay! That was a
Yeah, so
winner.
that's again the
Yes.
idea is here is I'm trying not to do a tutorial, but more or less kind of like to show you what's possible. And then if you want to use something in the future, if you have any questions, that sort of thing, just I'll probably refer you to the user guide, but I'll also be more than happy to answer questions. Okay, next
Yeah.
option. Here.
One kind of use of that would be really cool is to keep the HTML file on your phone
Oh
so you
yeah,
can
yeah,
access your tune books quick without
yeah.
taking a lot of room.
The the problem I can tell you, here's the problem with that is that works beautifully on Apple has made it incredibly difficult to view HTML files stored on your phone or on an iPad. It is possible using third-party apps, but if you download an HTML file from Safari on an iPhone and you try to open it, it will not open in Safari correctly.
Mm.
They've put some weird, Apple being Apple has put some weird things in. I think I might have a chapter in the user guide on how to view HTML files. Let me just check that real quick here. I do have a section on iOS specific issues. 1 second. No. The easiest way to really, what I find is that most people who are using these tools on their phone, who want to use the output of the tools on their phone, are using the PDFs. The PDFs because the PDFs are, the way the PDFs work, I'll just kind of open one up here, is they're really fast way to get your tunes. I'm going to just drop one on the, hold on a second here.
Michael, it works fine on my. I've got it up on my phone.
Okay, well that's good. Yeah, because you're on an Android phone.
I'm on an
Um,
Android. It's gorgeous. Oh,
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Like
So
that.
just to show you, like this is like on your phone, you would typically see something like this. Well, here would be all your tunes, and then you would just like click on the tune name. I want to go to Common Smash Rambles. You're there. Take you back to the table of contents, and now you go to like Zenny Steinman, and you're there. So what I see is most people when I've gone to sessions and people have their iPads or something like that and they're using tune books, they're typically loading the PDFs. I mean, part of that is just because because some of these PDFs are up on my website as examples. Some of them are like what's redistributed. For example, our cultist chapter redistributes this PDF file. And certainly the HTML files would work, but like I said, I've just found that the experience of using, and it's not just my tool, trying to actually view a HTML file on an iPhone can be problematic. And I use a couple of different other tools, like there's one called Textastic. There's one actually called just HTML Viewer that would allow you to do that. I think maybe if you save it in one of the PDF readers and launch it, it'll launch it into Safari. But I don't recommend using the HTML files as a prime, unless you're, how can I describe it? If you know what you're doing and you're comfortable with for yourself, use it. I find it to be a very problematic way of redistributing things to people who don't or aren't technical, while the PDFs just work for them. So I tend to redistribute the PDFs. All right, next topic, I believe it said, was power chords. Okay, so if we go into okay, so if I go ahead and add a sample tune here like Cooley's, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mute the okay, first I'll play it with the melody so you can just kind of hear it. I'm going to mute the melody. I'm going to just type mute for the program. You can do that. We'll get just the chords and the bass. Okay, so one of the things that I'm really interested in when I'm doing tutorials for button accordion is that on the button accordion, very commonly, we take the thirds out of the chords. And the idea is that, for example, on my accordion, there's only 8 bass buttons. And those are paired up as bass and chord. So there's a total of only 8 possibilities for the chords. And there's duplicates of the G's and the D's. So there's really only 6 different chords available. And so sometimes tunes are major and sometimes there's minor, right? You have tunes that are in A major, tunes that are in A minor or A Dorian. And so in order to be able to use the same bass buttons for those tunes, usually like on an accordion, you have to be able to see this, but like on my accordion, I'll say like here's a D, there's a pull, there's a little stop here, and you can hear this is a full D chord. D major chord, but I push this button here and now it's just the D and the A. So that way, if I'm playing a tune in, let's say, A major, A minor, I can use the same chord button because it doesn't have the third in it. And those are typically like called power chords, where you have just the root and the fifth. So by default, the ABC-JS, which is the underlying framework, when it plays the chords in tunes, it's going to play full chords with the third. So again, if you listen to this, you'll hear that that really is an E minor and a D major. Matter of fact, to make it even easier, I'm going to mute the bass. All you hear is just the chords.
Thank you. Pieces.
So I was trying to do some very detailed simulation of is it Mabel? Oh, sorry, first record. I don't even remember the names of my own. I think it's that. Yeah. So I was doing some very, very detailed simulation of some arrangements of some accordion tunes in a tutorial I was doing, and I wanted the chords to sound like the actual accordion chords. And to do that, I had to be able to get the thirds out of the chords. So I have an annotation here. It's this one, force power chords. And what that does is it'll take the thirds out of the chords when it plays. I don't know if you can hear that. That's very, very different than the way it sounded before. I think I have an example here. Let me see, probably under demos. 1 second, I just need to find a demo here. Power chord. Would have been a recent tune. I wanted to see if I could show you one of the demos I had done recently that used this. Blockers. Sorry, I'm just gonna need to look back here on my things I've done. Is this on power chords only? No, this isn't a good example, sorry. But just to kind of give you a sense, this is the kind of stuff that I'm doing, like trying to make exact simulations of tunes. So I'm trying to do like exact, like what I would do with the bass buttons. And to be able to do that, I needed to be able to do this power chord thing. So anyway, it's a case where it's just an option if you want to have it, for a particular, again, I did it specifically for accordion demos where I wanted to simulate the sound exactly. I'm just looking to see if there's another one here specifically with that feature. No, I don't think I'll be able to find an example like that, but that's what it's for. That's specifically power chord, forced power chord is for. All right, that was forced power chords. Let's do another one. Tune search engine, a thing that everybody should know, and I think it's funny because a lot of times the way that people use this tool, they'll say, well, I want to add, let's say a rabbit in the field. I just pick a tune out of random. And so what they'll do is they'll go to a site like thesession.org, and they'll go to the tune search engine, and they'll search here, hair, a rabbit in the field, rabbit.
Yeah, so some of us do this.
Yeah, do that. And then you go here, and then you go through all this, and then you have to go, let's say this one looks okay, and you have to go to ABC, and then copy ABC, and then go into the tool, and then click, and then paste. And that's how a lot of times people would use this thing. The thing that they don't realize is that I've got a snapshot of thesession.org from about 2 years ago. I've got 65,000 tunes already in the tool, always available offline, and they're right here under either search for tunes, that's one way to get to it, and the other one is just under add, tune search engine. And the way this works is it's a search engine. There's two collections. One is folkfriend.app, which is, some of you might use folkfriend. It's a thing that, it's kind of like TunePal. It listens to the tunes and it tells you what it is. Well, sitting underneath folkfriend.app is a snapshot of thesession.org. Jeremy, who is the owner of thesession.org, he makes the entire collection available as a giant data structure, on a repository. And you can download that and you can use that in other tools for free and without any problem. So folkfriend.app had done that, and because it was an open source thing, they said it was fine for me to use their collection. So it's a snapshot of 45,000 tune settings, not 45,000 tunes, because there's sometimes for the cache there might be 25 versions of it on thesession.org, but it's a total of 45,000 tune settings. Previous to that, there's a very nice person named Gavin Hennigan, who's a member of the group, who offered his collection of his kind of hand-curated 20,000 tunes. Some of them are, kind of his arrangements of things, but it was nice of him to offer it. I typically use the folkfriend app because it's just a snapshot of thesession.org. And so now I can do that same search right here in the tool. So if I say just rabbit, and there's a couple of options here, like only return first variation found. The reason for that is, again, if you're looking for woman, and it finds the woman of the house, and it finds 20 arrangements of that, you might not really want to get all 20 of them. You might just want the first one. And there's other options here, like if you want to match the first start of the title, or just return versions with chords. You can pick your tune style, which key, if you want to restrict it to certain keys, how many results you want to get. I'll just leave all the rest alone, and I'll just click search. And so here's all the tunes it found with rabbit in it. And we can kind of look through here. Oh, there's rabbit in the field. And I can triple click on this guy here to select it. Okay, so if I just click Add Results to TuneBook, it'll add everything that's in here. But if you see here, or I can just select the text here, and I can say Add Results to TuneBook. If you don't select anything, I'll just do that. You'll see it added all of the tunes to the TuneBook here. We got all 20 tunes in. But if you just want a few tunes, you can just go to the tunes go to the text that you want, and you can select it, or you can triple click on it on desktop, and it'll select the whole tune. 2, 3. There, 1, 2, 3. There we go. And say Add Results to TuneBook, and now we get the version of the tune. This is exactly, you can see it literally came from that exact same page. If we go to that page in the browser, you'll see. Sorry, I didn't actually copy it. Let's try that again. Copy, open link. There we go. You'll see we should be at the same page that we were at before. Oh, I didn't know Rap at the Field is written by Bill Nikomsky. That's cool. I just learned something. Yeah, so the I keep closing the tools. So the tune search engine is really cool. If we wanted to say Rabbit in the field, and we want all of the versions, we can see there's 2 versions on the session.org, and you can see now we get both versions here.
Michael, I'm so sorry. My eyes are starting to really hurt. Is it possible to make this any bigger at all?
No, it's as big as I can make it before I go into.
It's as big as you can go. Okay, I'm just really struggling with some of the smaller prints with this, so I've got my.
Yeah, that's as big as I can go before it'll start to wrap. So anyway, that's the tune search engine. It literally, like I tell people, it's a snapshot of the session.org. You don't have to. A nice thing is it's available once you go to it once. Like a lot of things in the tool, it saves itself in your browser in a database, and it's available offline. So if you don't have internet connectivity and you want to search for tunes, you can do that. A lot of the features in this tool were built because I've been to workshops in the middle of freaking nowhere where there was no internet connectivity at all, no cellular, no Wi-Fi, and I wanted to have something that would work out in the world, and that includes things like find me the version of that tune. And so this allows you to have the entire, essentially be able to walk around with the entire session.org stored on your phone rather than in the cloud. And again, those nice people at folkfriend.app, they do the same thing. They store the entire tune database on your phone once you go to their website once. If you've never gone to folkfriend.app, it's amazing. It looks something like this, and then you can click the little question there, and it says allow, and I can like and it says, oh, results are the cache, and it says there's the cache. This is a great alternative to TunePal, a nice thing about it is it does all the processing locally on your device, and it has the entire database stored on your device. So unlike TunePal, which has to currently, eventually it's going to change it, then like TunePal, you actually have to go out, it has to have internet connectivity because it sends your recording effectively to his server, does the analysis there, and sends back the tunes. So folkfriend.app is a really, really cool adjunct utility that I definitely say if you don't have it. And you can just say, what you do is just save a bookmark to it in your browser on your phone, or if you can, like on iPhone, you can create what's called a launch screen icon, and it looks just like a native app, just like my tool would. And you can treat it effectively like it was a native iOS or Android app. That way you don't even know it's a web application. Okay, so that's the tune search engine. Everybody should know about that. Again, available on Search for Tunes here, or on the Add Tune Search Engine, and that'll get you there. And again, full details in the user guide. Next feature, Wheel of Fortune. Snapshots. Everybody should be using snapshots. I had to come up with a name for this feature, and here's the basic idea. Let's say you've got, let's say I open up the idea with snapshots is they're kind of like they're like literally taking a snapshot of your work and putting it on the shelf and making it really easy to get it back later. So I'm going to open up again the entire, here's the Cultist tune book. It's 18 tunes. And let's say I want to go ahead and I want to transpose everything up half a step, but then I want to get back to where I was before. So let's say I go ahead and I just like select all and I say transpose up, and now it transposes all the tunes up half a step. And let's say I said, oh geez, I really didn't mean to do that. I clicked that button by accident or whatever, and I want to get back to where I was before. I guess you could click transpose down and wait again, but you'd probably think, well, I should just reopen the file. I have to click open and then go back and find the file and reload it and that sort of thing. Snapshot makes this really simple. All you have to do is click snapshot. Snapshot says save number, see it says save number 1. There's 4 snapshots. If you just click it, and think of this as being like 4 different shelves you can put things on, and they're independent and they're persistent across uses of the tool, which means you can take a snapshot, go away, come back to the tool another day, the snapshot's still going to be there, you can reuse it. So if you've got one tune book you're always using, and you can just put it in a snapshot and it'll always be there. People use this for like templates. They have like a tune template. They can put that in a snapshot and they can get the template back immediately just by picking that snapshot. There are 4 snapshots available. Snapshot, if you just click it, you get snapshot 1. If you hold down your shift key, you get snapshot number 2. You can see it says save number 2. Alt key. Oh, and by the way, if you hover over it, it'll tell you exactly what to click. See, it says there, it says click for snapshot number 1, shift for snapshot number 2, alt click for snapshot number 3, it says save 3, shift alt for snapshot number 4. So you have 4 snapshots that are completely independent. And then to restore a snapshot, so let's say I went ahead and did that to the tunes, I transposed them all up half a step, made a big mess of things, and I want to get back to where I was, I just click restore. It'll ask you, do you want to restore from snapshot 1? You say okay, and we're back to where we started. And if you want to restore from snapshot number 2, you do the same thing. You hold down your shift key and you click restore. It says, do you want to restore the contents with snapshot number 2? You say yes, that sort of thing. So you have these 4 little places that are available for stashing stuff. So for example, I have all of this in snapshot 1. Let me open up a different tune book here. So here's the Sean Ryan collection. Someone asked about this on the session.org. So here's the Sean Ryan collection. I'm going to put that in snapshot number 2. So I'm going to hold down the shift key and click snapshot. And now I'm going to reload the tool. We're sitting here at nothing. I can, from the add menu at this point, you can see there are 3 options here. I'll talk about the last one in a second. If we just click on restore from snapshot, it's going to restore from snapshot 1. This will bring back the Cultist tune book. Okay, here's the Cultist tune book. If I had said instead, hold down the shift key, restore from snapshot, you can see it says replace the contents with snapshot 2, and we now have the Sean Ryan tune book. Okay, so we have you have this really nice way of basically stashing up to 4 snapshots of ABC that you can get back even when you're not even if you close the tool. The snapshots stick around. Now these are specific to a browser, so if you're using Firefox and you have a snapshot and you go to use the tool on Chrome, Chrome knows nothing about the snapshots. Everything is stored locally in your browser. I don't store anything. I don't have servers. I don't have accounts. Everything that you're seeing here, the snapshots, the tune search engine data, all that's stored locally in your browser for my tool. So one last thing I did want to show you, and you probably saw it on that add menu, was there is this other snapshot called auto snapshots. And auto snapshots are to address the oops factor of that you've done a lot of work and you accidentally close the browser or you close the tab and you want to get your work back. And it's literally there as kind of like, a thing to save your butt kind of thing. You have to turn this on. It's not on by default. It's under, I believe, settings and save an auto snapshot on browser tab closer reload. If you check that, what happens is that let's say I had make a bunch of, like okay, so let me show you here. I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to load up the Cultist tune book. Okay. And let's say I make a bunch of changes here. I'm going to change the title to test, and I'm going to, let's say, delete the tunes here, this tune here, and I'm going to do something like sort all the tunes by let's say by meter. So I've made a lot of changes. But let's say, and I wanted to save this. I actually intended to save this, but I got distracted, and I want you to notice here, the top tune is the Banshee, the Beeswing, and the Boys of View Hill. Okay, and I'm gonna just oops, I'm like, oh shoot, I closed the tab. I didn't mean to do that. So now, if I go back into the tool, if I go into Add, you'll see that there's a Restore from Auto Snapshot. It grabbed this snapshot when the tab got closed. And you'll see it just says Restore Auto Snapshot. You say yes. And you can see now we're back exactly at the point we were at when the tab got closed. So I suggest turning this on. I don't turn it on by default. So it's just available there if you want it. And again, this information is available in the user guide. Unfortunately, because of the way that mobile browsers work, they don't give the proper notification when a tab closes. It's very, very, how can I describe it? It's very unreliable. While on desktop, the sequencing of the events that have to happen for this to occur are reliable. And so this feature is only available on desktop browsers. So Chrome, I know it works on Chrome, Firefox, and Safari, but again, not on mobile. Might work on Android, because sometimes on Android Chrome, but don't hold me to it, because Android Chrome effectively is the desktop version. The bigger problem is that all browsers on iOS are wrappers of Safari. Even though they might look like Chrome, underneath they're still Safari, and Safari on mobile doesn't do the correct thing as far as notification. So again, I think of this as primarily a desktop feature. I figure most people are doing most of their editing on desktop, and they're doing mostly viewing on mobile. So anyway, so again, that's the Restore from Auto Snapshot. So just to kind of to recoup on that, Restore from Snapshot, the snapshots, there's 4 snapshots. Which one you get depends on if you hold down Shift Alt or Shift Alt, you get one of the 4, and Restore is the same way. And there's effectively no limit on the size of the snapshots. They can be thousands of tunes. It's just some text. They're really not very big. Any question on snapshots? I use these all the time. Here's where they're really handy. If you are, for example, if you are doing something that actually does violence to the ABC, and one of those examples is the Incipits builder we looked at earlier, it changes the ABC. So let's say I want this, but I'm going to just do I want to just get an Incipits, but I'm going to keep working on it. I just say snapshot. That just grabs a version of it. I go into here, go to Incipits builder, build the Incipits. It's completely change the ABC, right? And now I'm like, okay, I'll do the PDF of that, and then I want to keep working. I just do restore, and I'm back to where I was. So this is the way I use the snapshots, is I use them to just, so that I don't have to keep saving and reloading files or copy and pasting all or anything like that. They're effectively, what they're doing is they're doing a select all, copy, and then pasting it off into another document, and the restore is just taking that document, copy all, and pasting it back into the editor. It's almost literally what it's doing. Very handy feature. All right, next. QR codes. So there's I get a big part of this tool is I wanted to have lots of ways people could share tunes, and part of it was being able to send someone a PDF, send someone a website. We have the share links. So if you're not familiar with the share links, I'm going to just create a tune here. Here's Coolies. You can go into sharing, and it gives you this big long URL, and you can just copy that URL, copy share URL. I'm going to say open in player here, add autoplay. You can just copy that URL, And then if you were to mail that to someone, I'm going to just paste it here. You'll see it just opens that tune in the player. This is the technology that's underlying all of the rest of the sharing mechanism. So this is what's actually going into the PDF file, is this link here. And this link actually contains, if you look at the actual link in the, here, all this text here, this thing, it says LZW equals, and then there's all of this, it looks like random text. What that is that's actually the entire contents of the editor that have been encoded, compressed and encoded into this form that then can be decoded and allows it to be put into a URL, because URLs can't have certain characters and they have to have a certain format. And then the rest of this information is like, well, what display do you want to see when it's open? It says notes. This is the staff spacing and the name to put in the area here, and the name. So the share links actually contain the entire tune. Well, then I thought, well, that's fine. If you want to be able to actually mail somebody a link, I mean, that's not a bad way to do it. Or if you can use a shortening system, I have a URL shortener in here that uses a third-party service. I can give you just a little tiny URL, but I only get a certain number of those for free per month, like 500 or 100 or something like that. And I'm trying not to pay for services I don't need. But the idea is that one way to share tunes is you can send them a PDF, you can send them a HTML, you can just send them a share link for a tune. A lot of people do that. They'll just paste a share link into an email or post it into a Facebook post, that kind of thing.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
Because I was guilty of using the shorten URL way too much in the beginning. I don't use it now, but
you can still use it. You can still use it. You just have to get your own, and there's details on this in the user guide. You can get all you have to do.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, I did download it and set it up on my own thing.
Yeah,
so I've got my own version of it. So all the shortened URLs are now mine. I'm not taking from yours anymore since I've.
If you've gone into the process here about how to get this token, how to get your private URL API token.
You have to do that once. Yeah, I did that.
Yeah, and then you enter it. I believe it's here, like right here. Yeah. Then in theory, it shouldn't. It'll be using yours and not mine. And if it's working at all, it means that it's using yours.
Oh, perfect. So, okay, good. Yeah. That's good to know, because I wasn't sure if I was still using yours or not, and I was kind of
pretty sure.
Very sparing.
Well, if you go to your TinyURL account, it'll show you all of the shortened URLs that have happened using your API key. Okay. So if you just go to the TinyURL and sign in on there, because you probably had to sign in to get the token in the first place. Yeah. Again, most people don't even think about this. It's that some people really want to do a lot of they don't want to use this big long URL. They want to use certain URLs. And so this is where this comes into play, is people who want to do like hundreds and hundreds of shortened URLs. Then I encourage people to get their own token. It's free. They have certain levels. You can get a certain number for free. And that's what I'm using myself. There was something else about that, about the URLs. Again, we're supposed to be talking about QR codes, but I just want to tell you one thing. If you do have a shortened URL, do not post it on Facebook, ever. In a post, in a comment, never. And the reason is that the way that shortened URLs work is that, and what I mean by a shortened URL is, you've probably seen them. I don't want to use up one to just demonstrate this, but they're very short. And what happens is that when someone goes to that URL, it goes to the TinyURL service. The TinyURL service knows the full URL, and they give it back. The problem is that Facebook puts additional tracking parameters when you click a link in Facebook. If you've ever, if someone's posted a link to CNN.com and you've copied that link, you'll see that at the end of the URL, they've added this FBC ID equals and a big long string. And that is effectively kind of like a cookie. It tracks that transaction so that they know that CNN knows that, oh, by the way, you came in from Facebook, and CNN and Facebook can now commiserate to deliver you, whatever kind of ads or whatever. When you use a shortened URL, when the shortener company, TinyURL, expands that URL, they don't include it doesn't include the Facebook tracking cookie information. And so they lose, it effectively gets around the Facebook tracking. And Facebook will flag that as, quote, intellectual property theft, and they will put you in jail for as long as 30 days. and this has happened to me. I accidentally posted like a tiny URL link to some set of tunes, and I got put in Facebook jail for 30 days because I was stealing intellectual property, and don't do that again or we'll cancel your account. And so I think even in the section of the user guide, I talk about the URL shortening and why you should never do that on Facebook. At least if I don't, I really should. But yeah, just a thing to know is like, do not put a shortened URL on. Do I mention it here? Yes, right here. Say, do not post any URL links on this tool on Facebook. They consider it as intellectual property theft, and they will put you in jail. So anyway, that's just something about, and again, not about QR codes. But I just want to show you QR codes. Again, I was trying to create ways for people to share tunes, and I'm sorry if I'm talking fast. We have a lot to cover. I wanted to create multiple ways for people to share tunes, and I have. I need to grab something here off camera. Like I have these really cool sticker printers. I don't know if you've seen these things. They look kind of like something like that. They're just little sticker printers, and they have sticker paper inside, thermal printers, and you print to them from your phone. They can print pictures or text or whatever. And I wanted it to be able to create like stickers that have a tune on them. And so that's where this comes in, generate QR code. And if you just click that, it takes that link and it generates a QR code. And if you were to hold your phone up to your screen and scan that, it would take you directly to the trick. It's effectively taking you to the same URL as the share link. And then you can click here. It says download coolies.png to your system. And
we have it still for a second. Just still.
Yeah.
Why is it not grabbing it? There it goes. Cool.
Yeah. So it'll create a QR code that you can use. So that's kind of fun. And then you can put that on a sticker or whatever you want. The other option where the QR code's in. What's kind of fun about this is that because this QR code generator is very generic, if you just want to be like, let's say, what would be a good one here? How about, I don't know.
Session.org?
The session.org. You can use this just for your own purposes. It'll take you. You can create any kind of QR code you want using the tool.
That's fun. That's handy.
Yeah, that's handy. I mean, but there's lots of QR code generators out there. Mine will do the job as well. But the other option is when you're creating a tune book. This is where the other. I'm just 3 tunes here. When you're creating a PDF tune book, one of the options is just the QR code for each tune. There's several. There's QR code for each tune and notation plus QR code for each tune. So if I just do QR code for each tune, we get a tune book with just QR codes. And these happen to also, if you can click on them, it'll take you to the tune. But if you scan those, that's another option. Another option is QR code plus notation for each tune. That will alternate the tune notation with the QR code for the tune. So that's another option. Another option is if you have a small set of tunes, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add something here. I'm going to add.
Can I just ask, because we were talking earlier about bringing the stuff up on the phone and the difficulties on an Apple device, or because it was coming. So will the QR codes work better on both devices? Like, so anybody can
work the same. No, they pretty much work the same these days. Yeah. One other option is if you have a whole tune book. Like, for example, I'm going to have these. Actually, let me bring up. I'm trying to think of a smallish set of tunes. So you can. Here, let me do this. Let me open up. Probably could just use my snapshot. Do I have QR codes? Okay. So I'm going to take this down to just a few tunes first to show you this option. So when you're setting up the PDF files from scratch, you can see all this stuff at the top here, and these are all instructions for the PDF builder that tell it to like put a title page, to put table of contents. But you can see there are some parameters here at the end that have the word QR code in them, and these have to do with the ability to put a QR code at the end of the tune book. So for example, if I want to have a tune book like this, but then at the end I want to have a link to the tune book where it's stored. So for example, let me find an example here of like a cultist tune book here. Okay, so I'm going to just grab the link to this, copy the link. Okay, so let's say here I've got the cultist tune book, and I want to have it so that there's a QR code at the back of the book that people can scan. So if you have the physical copy of the book and someone says, oh, can I get a copy of that? You can put a QR code at the end of the book to any link you want that will make it available. I'm going to show you a couple of variations on a theme here. And again, this is all described in the user guide, but you can see QR code and then there's just the link after it. And you can have a caption that goes underneath it and I'm going to just change it here to say, for here, this is the demo tune book. And I'm going to generate this PDF tune book with just 12 tunes in it. I'm going to do it just as, let's say, why do I keep clicking that? I'm going to do just as multiple tunes per page. And let me just back up a little bit. You can see this inject all PDF tunebook features. You can just enter all that information right here. You can say add a QR code to the end of the PDF. You put in your URL you want here, and you want to put a caption underneath it. If you don't put a custom URL in here, if this is blank, what it'll do is it will try to create a share link of all the tunes that are in the tune book if it can, and it will then put that QR code in. So the QR code we looked at before that I made from the tunes, the tune book could have a QR code that has all the tunes in it if it can fit in a QR code. It can fit into a share link, but most commonly, this is going to be an actual URL to maybe where you actually put the website. I'm sorry, put the PDF file. So that's the case here. I've got the QR code to the I've got the URL to where they can get the PDF. And now if I export this PDF, I'll say multiple tunes per page. We'll get the tune book here. We'll have a title page. Zoom out just a little bit. You can see a title page, table of contents, and then at the very end there'll be an index, and then after the index there's a QR code. If you scan that QR code, it's going to take you to the website where they can get the PDF. So the idea was just to have even the printed versions have the ability to effectively be self-replicating. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Is that it's just to make it easy for someone. Someone's got the tune book and you want to get a copy of it, instead of trying to email them the URL, even if they're sitting there on a tablet, and you can say, oh, you just go to the end, you say, here, just scan this with your phone, and now they have the tune book. Was the idea there. Now, if you don't put in a URL here and just leave that blank, what it's going to do instead is it's going to try to take these 12 tunes, and I think they're small enough that it'll actually work. This generally works from 10 to 20 tunes. Let's see. No, it's too long. Okay. So this is a case where I need to make maybe fewer tunes. It won't be able to do the QR code in that case, and it'll tell you if it can't. But if you had like a small set of tunes and you wanted to create a PDF that had a URL at the end, a QR code at the end that had those tunes in them instead of a link to the tune book, let's try this now. It should work. Just with 3 tunes should be small enough. It's effectively going to put the entire source code for the tune book into that QR code. So now we have this much more complex QR code, but that QR code actually contains the entire source code. It's the entire ABC for the tune book. This tune book has its own source code built into it. So if you scan that, you'll see you'll actually get the entire ABC, including all of the PDF headers and everything else encoded into this image. So it's a way of, again, just another way of, the QR codes are to enhance the sharing and to just make some very interesting things possible. Like I said, like stickers. Like I have stickers on my cases that are QR codes to the website, and then we have I think Cultus Interruptus on Facebook, we have a QR code that's to a very strange version of Tamlin and stuff like that. And those were all created using the QR code feature. All right, so that's QR codes. Custom themes we actually already talked about, because that was part of the syntax highlighting. That was the custom theme. So we'll try another one. Custom themes were changing the colors for all of the highlighting. Okay, set creation. So this is where you have a set of tunes. So again, let me go ahead. I'm just going to restore, which I believe is going to be the Cultus tune book. And oh, actually, this is the version from before the. After I do all the sorting, I'm going to restore from, I think it was snapshot number 3, where I put another version of it. Yeah, okay, so we're back in the tune books here. So the tool is great for creating individual tunes, but a lot of times people say, well, you know, we want to have the set of tunes, and I want to be able to practice the set of tunes, you know, playing each tune 3 times. And so, you know, previously what people would have to do is they would have to like copy and paste, you know, the tune 3 times and then append the, you know, I mean, actually edit the ABC to try to like cram all the tunes next to each other into one big tune. And which is kind of what you have to do with ABC anyway. If you want to have something that's multiple tunes, it's going to be a tune with multiple tunes in it. And I thought, well, this is the kind of thing that can be automated really easily. So I wrote this thing, which is the set builder. And it says create tune set, or you can hit Control/ or Command/ depending what platform you're on. And this just shows all of the tunes that are in the collection here. And you just click on them in the order that you want them in the set. So I happen to know that there's a bunch of, let's see, there's a bunch of, I thought there was a bunch of, yeah, here's a few polkas here. So let's say I want to have the Ballyvorney followed by Ballydesmond 1, followed by Ballydesmond 2, and then let's see, there's another, and say Britches Full of Stitches. And you can see it puts numbers ahead of them. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, that'll be the order. So that's how you pick your tunes. Or if it's a big long collection, you could search for them here by name. You could filter them out. This makes it easier to find them. And then you can say how many times you want each tune to be played when you play them. In this case, I'll just leave it at 1 so we can just show you how it creates it. And then you have 3 options. One is you could just open so if you're just practicing and you just want to play the tunes, like you don't really care about having the ABC for it, you're just like, hey, I want to put these 3 tunes together, I want to practice it. You can just say open in new tab in player. And what it'll do is it'll load that set up here. This is one big long tune that's those 3 tunes one after another. So if we play these, it's going to play Ballyvorney, Ballydesmond 1. It's going to play these continuously into each other. Okay. And if I had set up, and you can see this is just like one big tune. And if we look at the ABC for it, you can see it's just one big tune. Okay. If I had put repeats in there, if I'd said repeat each tune in the set, let's say 3 times, I can say open tab and new tab in player. And now you can see we have Ballyvorney 3 times, Ballydesmond 1 3 times, Ballydesmond 2 3 times. And again, this would be just like you just want to practice it, or maybe you want to use the tune trainer to practice the set slowly. So the open a new tab is primarily, I think, for practicing is kind of the way I think of it. If you just want to you don't care about the player, just brings it in the player. That's again, like you want to practice the set. If you actually want to edit the set, you can say open in tab in editor. Just does the same thing, except it doesn't just automatically open the player for you. It just opens the actual ABC, and it's using ABC part syntax to be able to actually play them in a certain order. And the last option is, well, I actually do want to add this set to the current ABC, and so you can click on append to ABC, and what it'll do is it'll build that set, and it'll ask you, do you really want to stick these 4 tunes at the end of your ABC? You say, okay. It's going to redraw everything, and now if we go to the end, you can see at the very end of the ABC, it's added the set to the ABC. So for example, I did the tune books for the O'Flaherty retreat, and they had the individual tunes. I forget how many, it was like a dozen tunes. And then they had tune sets for each of those tunes that they wanted to be played together. So they wanted people to practice the individual tunes, but they also wanted to be able to provide the sets and have people play the entire sets. And using the tune set builder, it was really easy to do that. And so I encourage people to start with using the tune set builder, because just the way the ABC is done, this kind of thing can be a little fraught with peril if you try to do it manually. Sometimes things like tags stack on top of each other, things don't look right. I try to do the best I can to make something that looks pretty and also plays and does exactly what you expect. So again, that's available just right here under Create Tune Set. And as with all of the other features, click the question mark, demo videos, examples, all of that. Okay. And if you've got thousands and thousands of tunes and you want to create tune sets from it, there's another version of the tool called the Quick Editor, which I could do a whole other thing on, which is designed to handle thousands of tunes. And sometimes there are cases where it makes more sense to build tune sets using the Quick Editor instead of the standard editor, because it doesn't have to draw all the tunes. It draws just one tune. So I've brought 30,000 tunes into the Quick Editor and create sets from it, and it just works, which is pretty cool. Any other questions on the tune set builder? And when you actually look at the tune sets here, you can see it adds a bunch of stuff. These are things, for example, like if you didn't put this hide rhythm tag in on this set, you can see how it stacks up all of these. That's just an ABC thing. Every time it sees an R tag, it's going to stack up a new R tag at the top. So doing things like that for you, which you'd have to figure out how to do on your own, it just takes care of all of that kind of stuff for you. If you didn't have this notation, if you look at the end of the tune here, it would have what's called a cautionary key change. This goes from the key of D to the key of G, and it shows you that, oh, by the way, we took away a sharp. Well, some people don't really want that. It looks ugly. It'll take care of making it not do that. So this fixes a lot of the kind of like ABC. I mean, it's not specific to my tool, but just like it creates ABC that's very nice for sets for you. The tune names can get kind of big because it just depends them all, for the initial one. But you could say, the ballet set or whatever. And then you could put the names in, and it still will have the names on the individual tunes. But the actual like top tune name is generally, it always puts in just and appends all of the names together. But that's easily editable.
Is it possible? Is it possible to grab tunes from different tune books to make sets?
No, not within one session. What I would suggest doing there would be to run like multiple copies of the tool, and like what you probably want to do in that case is you'd want to let me just like I'll do an example of what you're talking about. So for example, if I have this like Sean Ryan book, and I mean, the tool really is designed to work with a single tune book at a time. So I would have like literally three like copies of it running. I would say, okay, here's the Cultists tune book. So here's the Cultists tune book. Let's say I wanted to create a set that was the Abbey. I would literally like, copy this one here and put it there. And then I would go to the other tune book and take this tune and copy it. This becomes a manual process because again, it doesn't have any concept of that. But actually, here's an easier way to do it. I just realized there's a much easier way to do it. So the way I would suggest doing it, you could do it that way. You could just you could have like the two tune books open, copy and paste. Actually, it would be easier to do this. So let's say I have my two tune books. So I have I'm going to start from scratch. I'm going to open both tune books at the same time into the same editor. And I'm going to do that by going to tune books here. So I've got I've got the Sean Ryan one and I've got the Cultists one. I'm going to drag and drop, but well, I don't know if you can see that. Let me do this a different way. So you could just drag and drop the, you're not looking at my full screen, you're not seeing what I'm doing. But if you just drag ABC files onto the editor, onto the work area here, I'll just do that. I don't know how much of this you can see. If I just drag the file over, it'll add it to the work area. But you can do that with multiple files. I'm going to do it just manually by doing an open. So I do open, and I can just say I want those 2 tune books, or let's say those 3 tune books. I can open all of those at one time. And now essentially I've got one giant super tune book, and I could go into create tune set, and here's all of the tunes, but then I could filter them by, I could, if I was looking for, Banished Misfortune, I can add it, I could add it here, and then I could say I want to have after that Kesh, and then I want after that to be Blockers. And so, and I say open in player, and now I've got those 3 tunes from 2 different tune books. So I think the easiest way is just open all the tune books into one session. And again, you can do that from the open menu, or you can do it just by dragging and dropping the ABC files onto the work area, and it effectively does the same thing as an open. So that's probably the best way to do it, is to just do multiple sessions. Now, this is where, like, okay, we got 229 tunes loaded here. I'm going to force a redraw. It's not that slow. I mean, it's pretty fast. This is a Mac running Firefox. That's 229 tunes. But let's say I had a tune book with 1,000 tunes in it. Well, I don't want to have to wait for 1,000 tunes to redraw. I'm going to just show you what I was talking about with that quick editor. It's on the bottom here, Launch Quick Editor. Quick Editor works exactly like the normal editor. The main difference being is that when I open up a tune book in this editor, the full editor, and the reason I have to do this is because I need to do this to do PDF export, or it's because I actually need to have this notation here in order to create those PDF files. The Quick Editor does basically everything the standard editor does, except it doesn't do PDFs. And it's able to work really fast because it only draws one tune. So I'm going to open up 1,000 tunes here. It's going to be the King Street Sessions tune book. So it's 1,033 tunes. It just loaded up it just draws one tune at a time. Okay, so I've got over 1,000 tunes loaded here, and I could load another 1,000 tunes if I wanted. Like I said, I've worked with 30,000 tunes, but the set editor still works in this version. So you can go to then create tune set. Here's all of the thousands of tunes. Cache, Congressman's. Say Congressman's Rambles, Blarney, Pilgrim. Okay, and so even though I've got like 1,000 tunes loaded, I can create a set from those tunes within this and say open in player, and there's my 3 tunes. So I like to use, if we're working with really, really big tune sets where I don't want to have to wait for that initial open, because like you saw, like I'm going to do this again. I'm going to clear this. I'm going to reload the King Street Sessions tune book. Again, this is over 1,000 tunes. It's like I can start working immediately, right? And if I want to go to a particular tune, I can use jump to tune, and I can just like find that tune. If I want to go to Maggie, over the word Maggie, jump, I can go right to it. So it's a really nice way of getting around those tunes. But you can see, like, I was able to work immediately. I'm going to open that same file in the standard editor, but this one has to redraw all those tunes. Again, I'm showing this because if you're working with very large collections, I mean, I could show this to you with, I've got a set here of 30,000 tunes that I could show you with. You can see, like, it's going to have to do this original rendering, and depending on the speed of your system, like it's going to take, I think it takes about 10 seconds on my Mac to do 1,000 tunes. Let's see. It's having to draw all those tunes, and I have to wait. Now, once I'm here, then it's fast. But again, if I just want to create tune sets and I don't really care about the rest of the tunes, Quick Editor, man, it's just like amazing. Matter of fact, I'll open up 30,000 tunes. Here, I'll just find the biggest set. Here's the biggest set I have. Here's the Gavin Hennigan tunes. I think this is 20,000 tunes. Okay, processing. Okay, loaded 20,601 tunes, just like that. Okay, it's great. You can, and this thing, if you're doing things like sorting, any kind of like just text manipulation where you don't really care about the notation, I just want these sorted in particular order. quick editor does all that stuff, but you don't have to wait for it to redraw. So I always encourage people who are working with really big tune sets, really big tune collections, until you're actually creating a PDF file, the quick editor is really the way to go. And I would say like 1% of the people who use this tool use the quick editor. But again, it's always available at the end of this menu right here, launch quick editor. And on the quick editor, the other one is available at the bottom, launch a standard editor. So just like this, will just launch the standard editor. Okay. So yeah, so again, the easiest way if you want to create tune sets from multiple tune books is just open all of them at one time. And if there's a lot of them and you don't want to wait till redraw, you can drag and drop them, open them from the, if we do that same operation we just did in the quick editor, we could say open, we would just open up, let me just go back to modify. We just say, I'm going to open up those 3 books here, and and then I could start creating my tune sets immediately from the 3 different books. Okay, so that would be probably the easiest way to do it. All right, on to the next one. How are we doing on time? We've got about half an hour. Transpose to key, because this is really quick. This is just a feature that was actually originally put into the tool for mostly for the purpose of doing Highland bagpipes versions of tunes. Highland bagpipes are in a particular key, and tunes are generally written in sort of this kind of A mixolydian. So if I were to take in, let me just go ahead and open up the Cultist tune book again. And here's all the tunes. And they're in all kinds of different keys, right? They're in G and in D and A minor. But let's say I wanted to have all of the tunes in the key of F. I wanted all the tunes transposed so that they were in the key of F. And what I mean by the key of F is like if the tune is originally in G major, it's going to turn into F major. If it was in G, if it was in G, sorry, if it was in, let's say it was in, sorry, let me back up. If it was in like A major, it's going to be it's going to turn it into F major. If it was A minor, it's going to turn it into F minor. If it was A Dorian, it's going to turn it into F Dorian. So it's just under more tools. Where is it here? It's under transpose to key. Where are you? Transpose to key, right there. And you just put the key you want, F, and we'll just say transpose all tunes. If you want to do just one tune, it'll do the current tune you're working on. So let me show you just the case where it's the tune you're working on. So let me find the cache here, jump to tune, I'll say cache. And let's say I just wanted the cache in F. As long as I just click in cache, but when you click in a tune, it becomes the current tune. You can tell because generally it jumps to that tune. I'll just click in cache and I'll say I really want the cache, but I want it to be in F. I can just say change it to F, and it will transpose just the cache to F. Okay, left everything else alone. If I want to do all of the tunes, I can just like select all, just Command A. I'm sorry, well, I don't even have to do that because it's built into the feature. I can say transpose to key, say F, transpose all tunes. And now all of the tunes are in the key of F, and if they were in minor before, like this was originally like in A minor, now it's in F minor. Here's the Ballet Desmond in G minor. Sorry, it's in F minor, but the tune is in. So it looks at the actual key that was written into the ABC. If the key written there is, or the mode written there is not right, your results may vary. Like here's Banished Misfortune. It was originally, I believe, in G, and now it's in F, so it's gone down a step. So transpose to key is pretty simple. It just puts all of the tunes in the requested key. And again, that was what? Yeah, please go ahead. Question? No question?
I think that was just Jeff's partner there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, so you can do it just change it all to the key. I'll just show you what that was originally for. Was if we brought in the full tune book here and I wanted to have, I wanted to be able to do these on the Highland pipes, there's actually a feature here called Inject Bagpipe Sounds. And what it'll do is it will actually shift the all of the tunes as required so that they sit on the Highline bagpipes and can be played on the pipes. Okay, so it was kind of a side effect of I'm going to strip all of the chords here just because we don't need the chords for the bagpipes. Kind of muddies things up a little bit. So like if we just play like let's find one that most people know. Like here's Bally Desmond played on Highland pipes. Okay, so this was kind of a result of work I did for essentially automating the generation of bagpipe tune books out of just standard ABC that would sit on either Highland pipes or small pipes. And if you look in that feature there's a whole bunch of different bagpipes that it supports. Highland pipes, border pipes, small pipes, Swedish sack peeper. Like you want to, here I'll give you an example. Again, this all falls out of transpose to key. Kind of a general specialized case of that. So if I wanted to hear all of the tunes from the Cultist tune book on a Swedish sackpipa, I'm going to go ahead and strip all the chords just for cleanness, inject bagpipe sounds. I'm going to say Swedish sackpipa in D and inject. And this is the kind of, when I was talking about lunatic fringe stuff, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You know, just nuts, crazy. Matter of fact, to make that even better, I think if I tell it to shift the pitch of I think this was another option. I haven't tried this in a while. If I say shift drone pitch to match the key, I think it's going to sound better. Let's see what it does. Again, I haven't done this. I'm going to strip all the chords. Again, we don't need those for bagpipes. And we'll just do, let's see what that sounds like. That's pretty cool. Here's Banished Misfortune on sackpipa with a consonant drone in D. Actually, that's in the key of the other one. It's fine. It tends to sound nicer on the minor. Let's see. Oh, what does Coleman Cross sound like? It should be. So again, this is kind of like something that came out of the transpose to key. It allowed the ability to create these bagpipe drone specific things to model certain instruments. But again, the actual transpose to key feature, more tools, transpose to key. Just pick the key, whether you want the current tune or all the tunes. It explains what's happening here. And if you click the question mark, it'll take you to the section and it has a demo video. So that is transpose to key. Let's do the next one. We got 20 minutes left. Export all, another easy one. So you've got all of the tunes. We can just restore the, I'm using Snapshot 4, which has our tune book in it. And let's say you've got your tune book for your entire session. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to just reduce this down to about 20 tunes or so. Actually, I just want 20 tunes. I mean, it doesn't matter. It'll do 500 tunes, but just for the sake of demo, I want to just kind of get it down to about 20. Okay, so I've got my 36 tunes here, and let's say I wanted to, and these could be sets. They could be, doesn't matter. But let's say I wanted to send the MP3 files for all of the tunes in my tune book. And essentially it's like, it's like when I click play, I could click this export audio and I could say export as MP3 file, and it would create an MP3 of exactly what you hear when you play this tune. Instruments, timing, everything. But let's say I had the entire tune book and I wanted to send all of the tunes to somebody, and I wanted to send the audio for the tunes to everybody. Like they don't, they want to put them on their phone or something. They don't want to use the PDF or whatever. They just want to be able to listen to them, or they want to be able to, they don't want to have to export the MP3 themselves. They want to bring it into something like Amazing Slower Down or whatever. Very easy to do. You go to More Tools, then there's an option here that's Export All Tunes, and there's all these formats you can export them as. So if you want just the pictures, you just want the notation images as a JPEG, you would click Export All as JPEG, and here's the resolution. If you wanted to export them all as MP3, I'll just do that, import all as MP3 audio. You can even have it do repeats for you automatically. So if you wanted to, even though you want to say you wanted to have it in the MP3 file, each one 3 times, this will take care of it for you. You could have it with the reverb on or off. We haven't really talked about reverb. By default, the reverb will be there. You could have it add like a click track, a little 2-bar, intro. So I'll do that. Say inject a 2-bar appropriate style click intro, and then I'll just say export. And what you'll see is it's going to crawl through each of those tunes, and it's going to generate the MP3 file. So there's tune 1, tune 2. And what it's doing now is it's encoding the time it's taking. It is what it takes it to encode the MP3 file. And it'll do that for all of the tunes. And if I actually were to open one of those, I'm going to open one of those MP3 files. I'll just drag and drop it onto the browser here. Let me just open up a new tab, and I'm going to drag one of those MP3 files onto the browser. So this is one of the ones that was exported, let's say, for the Babes in the Woods. Oh, sorry. So you could do that with the your entire collection of tunes. And some people, that could be really handy, because you're sending, let's say you want to send someone a tune, depending on how technical they are, sending them a link may be useful. If you could just send them, if you wanted to just send them the JPEG and then the MP3 file of the tunes, that's another way to do it. There's a lot of flexibility here for able to do that. There's a lot of other formats here that are more for developers. So for example, if you wanted to have each tune out as its own ABC file, each of those is now its own ABC file. So you can see kind of up here it says, I don't know if you can see that, but it says like each tune name followed by ABC. So we have, Eleanor Plunkett.abc, Fairy Reel. Each of them goes into a separate ABC file. If you want to like tear apart your big long tune book into individual files, that's what the export all tunes is music XML, just a different output format that's more compatible with tools that don't understand ABC, like MuseScore can import music XML. If you just want all the titles out as a document, you can say export all tune titles. And if we open that file, it should just be all the titles and just a text file. Yeah, so it's just kind of hard to see, but it's just the titles of all the tunes. It's just a lot of options there. And then you get to really more complicated things down here that have to do with people who want to be able to create websites or create other tools that use the share links or that sort of thing. There's a lot more information down here. And again, as always, it's all available from the user guide by clicking the question mark. So that's export all tunes. Next one. Chord inversions. This is kind of like the power chords thing. So let me open up an example here. So let's see, it'd be under demos. Give me just a moment. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm going to add the Merry Blacksmith to this. Let me think about how I want to do this. Okay, so if I just play this version of the Merry Blacksmith, I want you to listen to the chords. I don't know if this is a particularly good version of it, but I want you to listen to how the chords sound. Matter of fact, I will mute. Let me just add some information here. I'm going to mute the melody. Okay, first I'll play it just with the melody, and then I'll turn off the melody. Okay, and I'll turn off the melody. So mute. And listen to the sound of the chords. I'm going to turn off the bass as well. So they are all essentially kind of, how can I describe it? They're non-inverted, you know, so like they're going to be like C, E, G, or D, F sharp, A. They're going to start on the root and they're going to go up. But and of course, when we play the piano or something, we have the idea of inverted chords, and that's where you don't start the chord on the root. So instead of C, E, G, it would be E, G, C. Has a different voicing, right? Like different positions on the guitar. So I have extended the ABC syntax so that if you specify, okay, so for example, I'm going to increase the size of the text here a little bit. Oh, no, actually that won't help us. But if you look right here, you can see like this is how you normally specify chords in ABC, is just by putting the letter inside quotes like that. Everybody see that? I've extended the sequence, extended the syntax so that if you put a colon and a number, that's going to tell it that you want an inversion, a chord inversion. So 0 is no inversion, first inversion. So like C, E, G would be, C, E, G, C would be no inversion. E, G, C, E would be first inversion. Second inversion would be G, C, E, G, that kind of thing. So it just basically higher voicings. So when I play this, what you'll hear is the first time through, I'm going to turn off the, I'm going to turn off just the melody. The first time through, you're going to hear it with no inversions. And then the second time through, you're going to hear, let me just see how it's set up here. You're going to hear a mix of inversions. The chords are going to sound different. And this allows you to create a little bit more variety in the playback. So first time again, you can hear them just without the inversions. And then as it goes forward, you're going to hear it, some variations. And again, these are specified by the colon followed by the number of the inversion. And this is, this is an extension to the ABC syntax that I added. Now listen what happens here. So yeah, I think it looks like I ditched this syntax later on, but basically this 1, 0, 1, 2, 3 thing you can add after a colon to do, I'll have to look into, because I think there was some controversy about how people specify inversions. But anyway, it's available. It's available for, if you want it, you can have these chord inversions. And I'm pretty sure it's in the user guide. There's some question about how to search the user guide. You can just do a Command F or Control F in your browser and search for inversion. And then click on that. It'll take you to the thing and it'll show you a demo video. Okay, yeah, so so it's just, the numbers 1 through whatever for the inversions. If it's a more complicated chord, like a 7 chord, like a D minor 7 that has more than 3 notes in it, so it's like D, F sharp, A, C, then the first inversion will be F sharp, A, C, D, and so on. So it's just however many notes are in a chord, it's just going to step its way up the ladder. So that is chord inversions. And again, that's an extension, that's a non-standard ABC extension to the chord syntax that's very specific to my tool. Most likely in any other tool, it'll just ignore the colon followed by the number and it'll just play the root chord. So in theory, it should do no harm, but you won't get the inversion sound because there is no standard in ABC for doing inversions. Next one, we have 10 minutes. And I can go later if people are interested. The Bodhran instrument. So there is an instrument, a custom instrument in the tool specifically for doing a Bodhran backing tracks. And I'm going to clear this out here. And if you look in where it says MIDI here, this is all of the instruments that you would put into the program numbers for playing. And one of them is 117. And 117 is special because every note of 117 is a different Bodhran sound. And so here's the ABC you would type, and here's the sound that you would get from that particular note. So there's scrapes and taps, and there's a high range and a low range. And it's also tunable. You can set the root of the Bodhran. This is what's used for creating the Bodhran backing tracks that are built into the tool. So if you go into Add, and you'll see Add Bodhran backing track template, and it'll say, for example, a reel. If you look down here, you can see these are actual notes, and these notes correspond to. So, for example, if we look here, if we look at that first note, I'd actually have to look in here, but each of these notes will correspond to a specific sound, and then this decoder ring here. This one tells you which sound you get for a particular note. And this way you can write something that sounds like this when you play it. Jump forward a little bit. And so the thing is just to show you when you do that add Bodhran backing track, is that what it does is you just pick your template, like you have a jig, and what it does is it builds a multi-voice tune for you with multiple parts, and then it makes the first voice blank, just a bunch of rests, and the second part is like 3 different variations of a backing track. So for example, if I wanted to hear Kesh with that Bodhran backing track, if I just add the Kesh to this, I'll just show you. We'll just add the Kesh. Okay, so here's the Kesh. And what I could do is I can just copy that out of the Kesh and I can just paste it in here as voice 1. And this is only 2 parts, so I'm going to just have the backing track be 2 parts. Okay, so now I have a version of the Kesh with the Bodhran on the bottom, and chords, and let's see, and I'm going to go ahead and put in my bass and chord programs here, just take those along as well. And so now we'll get kind of a full arrangement with drum and bass and chords. Except this is in C, it should be in G. Yeah, so and you can actually change the key of the Bodhran itself. So for example, it's currently tuned in A, Bodhran tuning. You can set your pitch, so if I want the Bodhran to be a G Bodhran. By G, it's just like the open ringing. people don't really think about Bodhran tuning, but Bodhrans are tunable. You can set them to be, G or B or whatever you want. You know why that sounds weird is because the synthesizer chords are kind of getting in the way. Let me do the thing without the chords. I'll change the tuning of the Bodhran from G to, let's say, D. You'll just hear it sounds different. You have some control. And again, all of this is outlined in detail in the user guide. I'll give you an example of a tune that uses this. It was put together by the same person who did the Bodhran tracks, Ben Hockenberry. Should be, I think it's called Maggie Lynn's Bodhran, yeah. So it's a reel using, this is the first top version we'll say is using the high set of samples. And again, you can see like the different notes here correspond to the different sounds that were from that other table. So we've got the top half is going to be the high samples, and the second half will be the low samples. So an example of a tune that uses that. Again, just kind of one of those like crazy features that most people aren't even aware of, but it's really, really very powerful. And you can start by just using the Bodhran backing templates and then modifying them and just playing with them is the easiest way to do it. So that's the Bodhran backing templates, or the Bodhran instrument, which is just, again, there's full information on it. Scaling notation. Another easy one. If we have a tune and a bunch of tunes, and actually I'll just do it with one tune for now. If you have a tune and you want it to be smaller or bigger, actually smaller I think is the limit. You can just put scale and let's say 0.5 and make it smaller. Or whatever you want. That can be useful if you're doing tune books and you want to cram more tunes on the page. That's one option. If you have a whole bunch of tunes in the work area, you can just put the scale directive before all the tunes, and then force a redraw, which is the easiest way. Is just click the currently selected tab version button again, and it'll just redraw all the tunes for you. So scale is just really easy, something I added relatively recently, and people use it for different purposes. There are other options like left margin. You can say like left margin and give it a number. I think it's in 1/72 of an inch, where you can manually set right and left margins. But a lot of times what people really want is they just want to scale. They want to just make things bigger. They just want to make things smaller. Usually 0.75 or something like that. Mostly to try to get more tunes on a page when they're doing PDF export by making them smaller. So for example, if I were to just export these as a PDF, I'm going to most likely get the first two tunes on the first page, and I don't want to do a whole discussion on maximizing. I just did a thing on the subject, but you can see we got the first two tunes on one page and then the next tunes on the next page. If I wanted to get all three of those tunes on the same page, I could just set a scale And I think for this set, it ends up being 0.55, ends up being the right number. And now if I export this as a PDF, let's see, should get all three on a page. Yeah. So that's what a lot of people use scale for. It's just to try to maybe get a tune to fit on another page with another tune. So that's scale. Okay, well, we're technically out of time, but let's do a couple more. Selected playback, another good one that a lot of people don't know that you can do. So if you are practicing a tune, you're trying to learn Alexander's hornpipe, and you click the player, you get the whole tune. If you want to just work on the A, and so like you click play, you get the whole tune, and then you get to like do the whole tune in the tune trainer. But let's say you just want to work on the A part, you can just select the A part in the ABC and click play, and you just get what's selected in the player. And then when you hit the tune trainer, you only get that in the tune trainer. Okay, and then you're like done with that, you can then say, okay, go into the B part and click play, and then you just get the B part. And you're like, well, I'm really having trouble with the last two measures. Just select the last two measures, and it'll just bring that into the player. Okay, so you can do partial playback just by selecting what you're interested in playing or practicing, and then clicking play. So it's funny because a lot of people it's not obvious, but it's really easy to do. It's also easy to completely screw it up because if you have to be like if you happen to have selected like one note and you play, you're just going to get the one note. So if you ever see that, it's probably because you have something selected in the ABC before you clicked play. But again, if you have no selection, you click play, brings the whole tune in. It's only when you have ABC selected that it takes the partial piece. Okay. Stretching editor, another feature that's in the user guide, but a lot of people don't realize that you can do this. And it's basically this: if you have really wide ABC lines, and I'll give you an example of a tune that has that. 1 second. Sorry, I just need to find it. Oh, come on, Michael. Just a moment. Sorry. I want to find one that's got really long lines. This is the one I showed you the other day, Alex. Well, I'll show you to a different way. So let's say I had this, I had this ABC, and you had changed the, sorry. I just want to find one with some nice big text. You can change the size of this editor. So if you have really long lines, like people are doing stuff with lyric sometimes, that have like really long ABC lines. So I know a good way to show this. So for example, if I were to bring up okay, so if I were to do something like align measures, which aligns basically all the bars so that everything's spaced out really nice. Okay, so now you can see all the bar lines line up, but because these are such long lines, they kind of sit on top of each other. And if I wanted to see them longer, I can stretch out the editor, until I can actually see them in place. It's because there's some really long text lines here. But essentially you can resize the editor just by dragging the corner, and the notation will try to move over as far as it can. Then after that, the editor will go on top of it. I'll do another example there. So if I do like coolies, and then I do align bars. Okay, fine. If we look down here, we can see like we get this wrapping here, and I can say, well, I really don't want that wrapped. I can bring it out a little bit like that, and now everything is lined up nicely. So that's where the stretching comes into play. But some people who have tunes with like lyrics and they want it really very specifically formatted, you know, they get into these situations where everything is kind of wrapped up like that in the editor for them, not just with the lines that they would have. And so having the ability to stretch this out allows you to get just nicer display. And it's just a feature that most people don't even know it's there, that you can resize this if possible. Again, this is a thing that's pretty limited to desktop. On mobile, this doesn't happen. This is just a desktop feature. So that is stretching. And we'll do one more and call it a day. What are we going to get? I just showed you align measures, so we'll skip that one. Align measures, just what it does is it just lines up all the bar lines. So makes all the measures. If we have, you can see here, like the bar lines aren't lined up. They're kind of all over the place. If you go to line bars, you can see how they all line up. And there's a keystroke equivalent to that. If you look on the menu there, I think it's Command/. So if you're like typing a bunch of stuff and you say, oh, I want to realign everything, you can just do that keyboard command and it'll line the bars up back for you. And then if you take stuff out again, do it again, just, oops, sorry, I hit the wrong button. It will reline up the bars for you. So again, just a kind of a nice feature if you need that sort of thing. Okay, one more. Okay, setting reverb. One of the big differences between my tool and pretty much every other tool out there that uses this ABC framework. So I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to say Coolies. And if we were to go to the session.org and we would just pick a tune and we play it, what you're going to hear is a kind of a dodgy accordion sound, but it's going to be very dry. Okay, and so one of the big features of what I do is that I've added reverb to the playback. So normally you don't even have to think about this. There is some reverb happening when you play this. Let's see, I'm going to strip the chords just to make it easier to hear it. So there's a little bit of reverb there just to give you some ambient sound, but you have control over the reverb. And again, this is one of those things that's outlined in the user guide, under user guide, advanced player features, adding reverb and playing tunes. It tells you all about the reverb. And the idea is that there's all of these different room styles, from rooms to chambers to halls to church. So just for like an extreme example, I'm going to say church 1, and you can put in a command that's just reverb, and then the style out of that list there. So church is one of the options, church 1. And then you tell it, these are fractions for the dry signal and the reverb signal. So for example, if I were to do 0.7 for the dry, that's how much of the original sound is going to be there. 0.3. These don't have to add up to 1, but commonly they do. And now you'll hear we're going to get like a church reverb. If I wanted to have in more reverb, I could say less of the original signal and more of just the reflected signal. And so on. And so there's a whole bunch of options in terms of the reverbs available. I'll give you an example of that actually in action. I'll go to, this is an example of a arrangement for choir. And let me see what I get when I play here, using one of my custom instruments. Now, if we were to get rid of the reverb entirely, and I'll just like do that by making the original 1 and the reverb sound 0, you can hear how different it sounds. It sounds kind of very computerized. It's very, very dry, very boring. It's far better with, having some nice ambience, and this is where the reverb comes into play. And so I use that a lot on, I do a lot of stuff with ABC and orchestral scores. So for example, something like, let's see here, a good example would be, let's do this Miss Saigon Overture here. So like this is a massive orchestral score from it's the opening music to Miss Saigon, the Broadway play. And you can hear, I wanted this to sound like an orchestra, right? It starts with a helicopter. Now, if I take the reverb out of that, it's just going to sound very, very dull. So, so the reverb is just available to you. Again, if you don't want to mess with it, it's actually turned on by default. And just to show you where the settings are for the default settings, it's actually here in the advanced settings under default reverb annotation. And you can look in the user guide. I'm using one of the models is the chamber, like say there's chamber hall, room 1, room 2, church, that sort of thing. And it's mostly the original signal, and then how much of the fraction. If I instead wanted to use the church reverb by default, church reverb with 0.8 and 0.2, so that's 80% of the original signal and 20% of the reverb. When I play this, we'll get church now as the default. So you actually have some control over the default reverb that gets used. But for the most part, mostly you don't have to care about this, but it's there available to you if you want to use it. 05. And now it'll be back to the way it normally sounds. With just a little bit of reverb to give it a little bit of ambience. All right, well, I think that will probably be all I want to cover today. Let's see here. Let me go ahead and stop share. Jeff, any final questions or anything like that? A lot of information, but I was just trying to kind of show that like beyond just the basic stuff, there's just this like a whole bunch of other stuff one can play with if you want to get into the if you want to get into some of the finer control of it. And a lot of it was built because very, like I say, it's very specific needs. Wanted to be able to do drum tracks, wanted to be able to support bagpipes, wanted to be able to do orchestral scores, and these things kind of like build on top of each other to create this much bigger thing. And the beauty of it is that for the most part, most people don't have to even like if you don't care about any of that stuff, it's great. It's just like you don't have to care about it.
Yeah, it gives you more flexibility.
Yeah.
To do different things. It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's really kind of how can I describe it? So like the underlying framework of this thing, the thing that's doing that's doing the drawing of the notation and the underlying framework that does the playback. Even though it's called ABCJS, written by a guy named Paul Rosen, and it's used a lot, like on the session.org and other sites. And I've modified it a lot, but I'm just amazed that like you can throw something like an entire orchestral score at it with 28 different instruments and have it produce something that actually plays and sounds good. And I think it even surprised Paul when I started doing some of these more exotic demos, kind of pushing the envelope of what was possible with his own. Like he wrote it basically because he's a jazz player. He wrote it for doing jazz scores, and it's mostly used for traditional, like the session type, single line stuff. But it turns out it's actually very, very powerful and able to do multi-voice, multi-instrument arrangements. And because there's a lot of material out there that's written not in ABC, but either generally in this other format called Music XML. So, for example, full orchestral scores or piano parts or whatever. It's possible because I can read this Music XML and I can turn it into ABC. It opens up this whole range of like I've got like 2 jazz tune books that have 3,000 jazz standards in them in Music XML, and I can bring those in and play them directly in the tool, and that sort of thing. And so it's just like, how can I describe it? I'm trying to address a lot of different things beyond just like traditional Irish music, which is in traditional Irish, Scottish, British Isles music, to see that like this thing can do a lot more. And the bigger problem is just communicating what's possible to the right people,
Yeah.
And so I do get, I've got people in the Scottish bagpiping community who kind of get it and are starting to use it for certain things. And, and I mean, even does things like for the Chinese flute tablature, that kind of thing. So there's certain just these like niches that I try to address. And it's mostly because people ask for it. Someone says, "Hey, I play this.
Yeah, that's
Play this
pretty cool.
yeah, I play this weird instrument, and can you do something for me? We have this weird notation, or I need this weird like tablature." And if I can, I do. And if it's non-destructive, I generally try to accommodate them. I'm hoping that I'm done with this thing at this point. I'm just trying to fix bugs and keep promoting it. And I think the addition of the syntax highlighting just in this last month is probably like it's kind of like the final like, okay, here you go. This is something I really wanted. I didn't think it was going to be possible, but it turned out there were some other pieces of code, open source code, that made it actually possible to do it and so I was able to put that out there. So, any last questions or anything before we close it down for the day?
No, I don't think so. I was interested in hearing about the sets because what I've been doing is cutting and pasting and putting the tunes in 3 times and then put them
Yes.
in three
Yeah,
times.
yeah. So it's doing exactly. It was one of those things because I was doing that myself, and oftentimes here's what I notice is like I'll be doing something myself that I think other people will do, like make sets, and then I realize it's like this whole process can be automated, and once I realize that, then it's like then it just becomes so much better because it's kind of hard to create sets with ABC manually and have them actually look and work right. And I figured, and I've seen multiple people go through this, and they'll send me ABC, and you can see that they've really had to work around a lot of stuff that, because, just like deleting the X tags and sticking them together works to a certain extent, but it causes other problems. And so, uh, the question was, well, how could I automate the working around the problems for people with some special sort of secret sauce that my tool would know about things like hiding the extra tags and getting working around just some of the limitations. And yeah, so I think the set builder is it's like one of my favorite features. Also because once it creates the tunes in the set and you bring it into the player, you can export the MP3 of the entire set. So you can like send that to somebody. If you're working on a set with somebody, it makes it really easy to give them the audio for the whole set rather than the individual tunes. So there's a lot of interesting use cases for the set builder that I think are pretty cool. So
Yeah, yeah.
all right.
A lot of times I take tunes from Mike Long's both of his books, so that was why I asked you about can you
Oh yeah,
get
yeah, yeah.
from yeah,
So if you're
yeah.
using Mike Long's book, because they're so big, I would definitely, and you want to create sets, I would say definitely use the quick editor, because it's just so set up to deal with thousands of tunes, rather than because again, the main difference is whether it has to draw all the tunes or it just draws one tune at a time. And like if you want to, and I've literally done this. I've literally brought in one of those databases, like the 30,000 tune databases, brought them in, sorted them all by meter or whatever, and like the quick editor does it instantaneously, because as long as the thing that's slow is drawing the tunes. That's a lot of
Hmm.
work going on there. But when you're building sets, it doesn't need to draw the tunes. It's just pure ABC manipulation, and so that can be really, really quick, creating sets out of Mike's
Right.
tune books.
Right.
Yeah, or just put them all together like in one big ABC and open that in the quick editor, and then do your set creation. And because you can search by name, it makes it a lot easier. You don't have to like scroll through 2,000 tunes. You can just like type the part of the name in, and it'll take you right to the tune, and you just say
Mhm.
add. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, pretty handy. All right, well, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Okay, Jeff. Thanks
Picked
for
up
coming
some
in.
good stuff.
I
All right,
appreciate
we'll
you being
see
here.
you.
Take care.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.